Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel with the name Easy Scripture. I want to assure you that on this YouTube channel, I will try as much as possible to make all my explanation and cutting very simple that you can grab it at once. I also want to plead with you that please subscribe on my YouTube channel for timely tutorials on what and how to sew. But for today, we'll be cutting a belt trouser. And very quickly, I would like to mention some little tips that can help you to cut a belt trouser very easily. Now, one of the problems that people ask whenever they are cutting belt trouser is how to determine the crotch to use when cutting. Also, the length of a trouser helps to determine the measurements that you use for the crotch. If it is a woman, you can ask the lady to sit on a flat surface and you measure from her waist to the surface of that chair for you to determine her crotch, and it will be alright. But for men, there are some measurements that determines what crotch to use that apply with so many measurements. For instance, if the length of the man is 38 to 40, the measurement of the crotch that applies mostly for men is 9 inches for the length. That's the depth of the crotch. But if it is between 41 and 42 to 43, you can use 9.5. And if it is between 44 and 45, you can use 10 because of the height. Also, the waist, how fat the person is, can also help to determine. For instance, if the waist of the person is around 38, 39, 40, the crotch can be 10, not minding the length. Some length can be 38 and the waist will be 38, 39 or 40. The crotch can also be, the depth of it can be 10. And as you go on, you will get to know how much you can do it better. For this trouser that I want to cut today, we'll be using the following measurement. The length as 41, the waist as 35, the thigh as 24, and the round leg as 14. The length as 41, the waist as 35, and the thigh as 24, with the round leg 14. Now, the best explanation I can do to make this very easy, even for somebody that is just starting to get, is very simple. You remember that the waist, there is a 1.5 inches that is being added to the waist for the belt. That 1.5, you subtract the 1.5 from your actual measurement. So 41 minus 1.5 will give you 39.5. Now, you now add for joining allowance at the waist and at the round leg, which is half at the waist and half at the round leg. That makes it 1. So 1 plus 39.5 will give you 40.5. So logically, when you are cutting a belt trouser, you can apply a shortcut such as the full length minus half inches. It will give you the length minus 1.5 plus 1. You arrive at the full length minus half inches. So 41 minus half will give us 40.5. Now, and for the folding allowance at the leg, standard, you use 2. Now, you measure it further, 40.5, and you add the 2 inches. So, you go to the round leg. This is 14 for the round leg. When you are cutting the front, the round leg and the thigh, you don't need to add any joining allowance. You can only add joining allowance to the waist, not the thigh. You will add joining allowance to it. So 14 divided by 2 will give you 7. So you come to the round leg, you measure your 7. But before the 7, you measure 1. So the joint beside the trouser can be by the side, and it will give the trouser a good shape. You measure 1, and after the 1, you measure 7, which is 14 divided by 2. You have this 7. And then you come to the waist. An average adult pocket size, the depth or the length of it is always 7 for standard measurement. And then the wideness at the top, you use 2. This is for the pockets. Now, let's apply the waist. The waist measurement is 35 divided by 4 because the trouser has 4 pieces, 2 on each leg. So 35 divided by 4 If you divide 35 by 2, you have 17 and a half. And when you divide 17 and a half by 2, you have 8 quarter. You have 8. Yes. You have 8 quarter. So when you apply 8 quarter to the waist plus the sewing allowance, you need to add half inches for joining at the front and half inches for the back, which makes it 9 quarter. And then you move down. But don't forget that the length I told you for the crotch, I said between 41 and 43, you can use 9 and a half. So for the crotch, we measure 9 and a half. Now, at this measurement, remember that at this top we use 8 and a half quarter. So at this measurement, you add 1 inches for pocket allowance, so that when the person is to take everything in the pocket, the trouser will be free enough to accommodate the person's hand. So 8 and a half quarter plus 1 inches gives you 9 and a half quarter. So at this place, consider the measurement of the person's thigh. This is 24. So if you consider the measurement of this thigh, 24 divided by 2 is 12. So 12, looking at the measurement we have here is 10. So when you add 2 here, it gives you 12. So you mark. Don't forget, I said you are not adding sewing allowance to the thigh and the round leg. And the round leg, you are using the exact measurement. The waist, the thigh, you are using the exact measurement. The waist, you are adding joining allowance. So you curve it. So you can use your tape, your ruler, to connect this line here, because it's going to slant. And then you curve it to it. Just this. Should in case you don't have a long ruler, your tape rule can help you to connect both these lines, and you still arrive at the same result. This way, you place it this way, and then just dot by your tape rule. So you have it this way, and as it is like this, the next thing we do is to cut it out. So at this point, you curve carefully. If you have a French curve, you can use your French curve to curve that place when you want to cut, to avoid having a sharp edge. You cut out the front. Now, we have our front. Then you take it and turn it the other way. Place it on the other material. Let it be equal at the round leg. Now, like I said earlier, this is where we are adding our sewing allowance. So at this point, you had 3 inches here. For this kind of measurement, you have 3 inches. Why? The tie, we already have our tie. So here, remember when we are to join here, half inches is going here, half inches is going here. Meaning this 12 will become 11. So when we add 3 here, the 1 inches that we are joining here, the front will subtract it from here automatically. So it will complete this place to be 12. And the remaining 2, half inches on this side, half inches on this side of the back. We also take 1. So it will make it a return to the 24 that we needed. So we have 3 inches here. You do it straight this way to help you curve the back. Then you come to the round leg. You measure 2 inches, which is the back we have 1 and the front we have 1 as well. Measure it like that. Then at this top, at the waist, you can add 1 inches here for you to curve this part like this. You can also use French curve to determine this place. If the person is, because there are some men that has hip, but for this size, there's the measurement for the hip of this side, we are using 2. Because there is no, this allowance for the hip will help the person to wear it conveniently without issues. So we have 2 inches here. You connect this 1 inches to it, and then from this edge, you can use your ruler to bring it up this way. So we have our measurement. So you cut this part out. So this 1 inches, it also applies to the back. So you may cut it. Okay, let's cut it one after the other. You trim this 1 inches out, but as you are trimming, you are reducing it, because that 1 inches only applies to the round leg. And then you cut the back equally. So from the leftover pieces, you have the flap that you use for the pocket. So you cut it out. This is the leftover material that we use for the waistband. Now, you can as well bring this front forward. Place this round leg at this marking and this at this point, and then you trim it out equally. The 2 inches that we marked here has come to the back, and this 3 inches is also at the back, so you curve it out. So then you can shift it up. And then most trousers, after sewing, you discover that there is a swelling here whenever the man wears it. To avoid that swelling, you can just trim 1 inches away from this top, slantly to this pocket part. So but after sewing, it will allow this front to go down and balance under the tummy of the man for this hip to have its course. So this brings us to the end of this particular trouser, and I believe that you have learned 1 or 2 things from this. This is the pocket, 7 inches, and then 2 inches. So please, I'm promising you that timely I'll be bringing more cuttings. The next cutting will be cutting a packing shirt, how to cut a ready-made packing shirt, and I will explain in details practically how you can cut it. So please don't forget, subscribe on my YouTube channel and click on the bell beside it for timely updates. Thank you, and see you next time.